Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to update this August House on the recent National Job Fair and the National Youth and Sports Conference held recently. Mr. Speaker, both were notable events and a first for Fiji. Mr. Speaker, before I provide that update, I would like to take time to comment on an event and an issue that was of intense public interest and commentary. First, I would like to congratulate Roy Krishna for winning the Golden Boot and Johnny Warren Award for the Best A-League player. These are high honor. Mr. Speaker, these are high honor on a humble but high-achieving Fijian soccer captain who has been a role model for our youths. Roy, as he is known to fans, came to prominence in the year 2007 All Under-21 qualifiers in New Zealand, when he won the Golden Boot and brought Fiji to within one goal of qualification. This past season has been the best as Fiji's only A-League player so far. And we congratulate Roy Krishna for making a mark for Fiji and in particular for the youths of this country. Mr. Speaker, the other issue of public interest involving youth and sport was achievements of Ashnil Karan and his known selection in the Fiji team for the Pacific Games. I commend Ashnil for his achievement. I am also deeply moved by his grace, composure and maturity at a time when other commentators on social and other media were engaging in angry outbursts. Mr. Speaker, Karan has accepted the decision of Athletes Fiji and acknowledged that their decision is final and based on their qualification and policies. As Minister for Sports, I would like to ask all his fans to respect his decision. Mr. Speaker, Athletes Fiji responded to and clarified some of the issues that my ministry raised with them in public interest regarding the non-selection. I join Ashnil to show respect for the decision and to allow Team Fiji to continue their preparation for the Pacific Games to bring glory to our country without undue distraction. Mr. Speaker, no doubt, I, with the rest of the country, will follow with the interest the pathways that Athletics Fiji comes up with for Ashnil in the coming months and years. Mr. Speaker, before I move on to updates, it is timely that I provide some response to the various issues raised earlier this week in Parliament in relation to youths and jobs. Mr. Speaker, it concerns me gravely when some of the honourable opposition members use our Fijian youths and their issues solely for the purpose of furthering their political agendas. Sadly, we see that this grandstanding politics of the opposition being given undue prominence in our media and on social media. Mr. Speaker, the issues and solutions for our youth lie firstly with them. And when I talk about our youth, I'm talking in inclusive terms of all Fijian youths and not just the youth wings of your political parties. Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament sitting, the Honourable Opposition Whip, without any basis, raised the allegation that some youth groups were specifically excluded from the National Youth and Sports Conference. I assume she meant the Sodalpa Youth Whip. Mr. Speaker, I challenge Honourable Opposition Whip to provide a list of names to back up our allegation that she has not responded since. Mr. Speaker said, as you can see, it is easy for them to make these loose claims behind the parliamentary privilege and not face up when challenged. Mr. Speaker said, it is also easy for the opposition to talk about engines and growth, but they have failed to back up their talk and any concrete solutions to our suggestions. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker said, during the debate, I asked Honorable Salote to give us some solutions in regards to the matter that she raised, and that was in terms of town rate areas. But there was none, Honorable Speaker said. I'm coming to you, don't worry. Mr. Speaker said the youth of Fiji need more action and less talk. Let's move on to what Fiji First government has offered them from day one. It is all well and good for opposition to point out that during their term they did this and that, Mr. Speaker said. But let me point out to this House, Mr. Speaker said, that Youth and Sports was relegated to be a department within the Ministry of Education. That was their basically contribution to the Youth and Sports, a department, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, the Fiji First government, since coming to power, increased 4 to 5-fold the budget for the Ministry of Youth and Sports and empowered it as a stand-alone line ministry.
Order.
And this is the most significant way to see the difference between Fiji First and the rest. When it comes to the importance of youth and sport of our beloved country. Mr. Speaker said, and members of this august House, it is important to understand the spending on youth through the Ministry of Youth and Sports budget against the total government spending on youth. The bulk of our national budget is spent on youth through education and the Education Ministry. Other line ministries, notably agriculture, fisheries, forest, trade and tourism, have significant, and also including health, have significant spending through their youth outreach programs. And Mr. Speaker said it is simple economics, but probably too much for the opposition to digest. Mr. Speaker said, the youths are not removed from such allocations, but benefit along with the larger population from the budget and programs for all Fijians. Mr. Speaker said, it is against this background I wish to highlight some of the programs and achievements of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. And I wish to remind the honourable opposition members, these are in real terms, in real time, and for real, as opposed to their wish list for the youth and for all Fijian youths. Mr. Speaker said, the National Job Fair initiative is Ministry's contribution towards government's commitment in fulfilling the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 8 on decent work and employment growth. The National Job Fair is directly linked to government's 5-year and 20-year National Development Plan on inclusive socio-economic development and reducing unemployment rate, and in particular, the youth unemployment. It is Ministry's collective efforts to achieve government's aim of reducing unemployment rate to below 4% by the year 2021. Mr. Speaker said, at this juncture, let me acknowledge all our host partners, and in particular the Fiji Higher Commission's partner ministries, training and educational partners and employers. Their support made the success of the first ever National Job Fair and the first ever National Youth and Sports Conference. Mr. Speaker said, the aim of the National Job Fair provides an opportunity for the young people to be informed of clear pathways from education to productive employment. Mr. Speaker said, the National Youth and Sports Conference provided an outcome statement to guide the ministry as it prepares a fresh rollout of programs and policies to empower Fijian youths. Moreover, the National Job Fair and the conference enables Fijians who have opted out of mainstream education and wish to pursue their studies through higher education institute a window to make their dreams happen. Mr. Speaker, a total of 1,897 clients was registered during the 2 days job fair, not taking into account all those who came and visited the booths and did not register themselves. Majority of the public that registered were in the age of 15 to 24 years, at almost 50%, with those between 25 to 34 making up another 40%. Mr. Speaker said, the higher number of female attendants at 57% is an indicator on increased number of females wanting to participate in the labor market. Mr. Speaker said, with the recent signing of the Pacific Labour Scheme between Fiji and Australia on semi-skilled workers for up to 3 years, all stakeholders will need to be more committed for the benefit of all our unemployed citizens. My ministry will ensure proper checks and balances of all employment contracts for Fijian workers. Mr. Speaker said, all our partners acknowledge the opportunity to let the employment market know directly what is on offer and where the skill gaps are. The presence of our higher education institutions provided the opportunity for those not in education, employment or training to have one-to-one discussion with those wanting to enhance their career through further studies. Mr. Speaker said, ministries and departments' presence enabled the public to ask questions on the different services provided by government ministries, together with potential pathways in joining the civil service. Mr. Speaker said, the Talanoa session hosted by my ministry to review the outcome of the National Job Fair has given us a clear direction on our plans for the future. The responses from all our stakeholders have indicated the need to make this as an annual event. Mr. Speaker said, the Talanoa session also highlighted the concerns raised by employers on the expectations of new workers joining the workforce and also identified gaps between the training institution and what is expected from our employer. In this regard, Mr. Speaker said, I once again urge all training providers to work closely with employers as they plan and roll out their programs. It is no use training in areas that are low or nil demand, or training in methods of skills that vary from what is on demand and in particular application. Mr. Speaker said, the National Job Fair has created another pathway for potential employers to use the provisions of the NECT Act 2009. The Act places a social responsibility on employers to promote employment through qualified unemployment persons working as attaches or volunteers on a ratio of at least 5% of the total number of workers if employing more than 50 workers. Mr. Speaker said, this enables potential candidates to gain valuable training and experience. Mr. Speaker said, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities also acknowledged Fiji Fair's government's commitment on inclusive and concentration for equal employment opportunities. Mr. Speaker said, the job fair also provided training sessions for participants as part of capacity building and preparing them for employment opportunities. Other sessions encourage participants, enable job seekers to be job creators. Mr. Speaker said, Ministry will continue to work hand in hand with all our key stakeholders to address all the challenges and plan even better and bigger for the next National Job Fair. Mr. Speaker said, to the youths of Fiji, I thank you for giving voice to your voices during these forums. We came together, you talked, and we have listened. And I assure all of you that based on this, we will continue to place your voice above others as we map more pathways and programs to empower and transform the youth of Fiji. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir.